viewers.
Hello.
The Dawn of Wrestling here.
New Japan Stan. How y'all doing?
And of course, Jake Howell from the Alliance blog. You guys can follow me on the Alliance blog at the Alliance blog on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok. Yeah, I got on TikTok.
Right on.
Tumblr. Stan, where can they follow you?
Brian305 on Twitter, but I'll probably switch it back to New Japan Stan. And on Facebook, Stanley Sprouse.
I'm on Twitter, The Dawn of Wrestling, Facebook, The Dawn of Wrestling, and Twitter, The Dawn of Wrestling.
So just a little backstory. We consider ourselves family here, the NWA family. We all came together at the 70th anniversary show. That's where, oddly enough, Adam Rotella, who seems to just ditched us, kind of brought us all together, which was cool. But we wish Adam was here too. But regardless, we're all fans of the National Wrestling Alliance. We've been going to shows for years. Our friend Stan here is a regular in New Japan. Don has pretty much got Tennessee covered when it comes to pro wrestling. And you guys know my story. I'm a SoCal kid with a lot of SoCal connections. We're here at the first TV tapings. Well, actually, this will be the second one because we were all there last night.
Yes.
And first, before we go into too many details, we're not going to try to give away any spoilers. We're not going to try to give away any of the all the hidden secrets and stuff. But we will be talking about the show. If you don't want to know anything about the show, turn it off right now. We don't want to ruin it for you because we will talk about stuff and it might give some stuff away. But just be prepared for that. But overall, I want to get your guys' thoughts. First, let's talk about that arena, right?
Fantastic.
I loved it.
The epitome of studio wrestling. If you guys love Jim Crockett Promotions, if you guys love that studio atmosphere, this was a great venue. And I wish there was a way to just pop pictures up here, but I can't. But talk about the old school feel of that theater, Don. What did you think?
Oh, I loved it. One of the things that stood out was the flags, the international flags they had hanging all around. That is so old school, and I absolutely loved it. And the ring, that bright blue and gold NWA around the ring apron, man, that just brings back so many memories and feelings, and it's fantastic.
Sam?
Since I wasn't around, I wasn't born yet to have that studio wrestling experience, and I got it last night, and I loved it. And to experience what my dad you used to watch and go to the shows, it felt pretty good. I had goosebumps mostly all night.
And I'll say, if you guys ever watched the NWA Anarchy, NWA Wildside, very similar feel, very comparable feel. Again, also, if you watched the NWA Saw old shows, very comparable to that. For us out in Southern California, Dave Marquez has been doing NWA wrestling like that for 20 years, that studio style wrestling. But his earliest shows in the Santa Monica Dojo that were promoted with Inoki, those shows had those international flags, had that same kind of feel, much smaller in capacity. I think last night there was close to 200 people in attendance. At the shows in Santa Monica, there was like maybe 30, and that was a very empty 30. But I thought it was pretty cool. I think I can't wait to see what it looks like on TV. Because we could be there and we could see one thing, our cameras can pick up one thing,
right.
But what it's going to look like,
the different camera
with the video
angles.
cameras, And I mean, when we see it, we see over here we have the commentators, over here we have the podium for the interviews and promos. I want to know how that's going to look like on TV, because I remember watching those Jim Crockett Promotions, the 86, they kept saying 1986, the 86 feel. And when they did that, the show just looked like something else completely.
Yes.
It looked so much bigger than what we saw last night, but I think that's the whole trick, is the whole camera angles. This looks like it's bigger over here, and this looks like it's bigger over here, when really we're just 200 people strong in that
right.
venue. So what did you guys think about, first of all, the talent that we saw last night?
Okay, I thought the talent was outstanding. One comment that I have about the talent is, I've been to literally hundreds and hundreds of wrestling events. These guys were pros. Like, not just in the ring, not just in front of the camera, but off the camera, talking to fans, talking to each other. There was a lot of respect there, and I really enjoyed seeing that. of course, the talent in the ring, it's pretty hard to beat what was going on there. It was really an exciting time.
Yeah, there was some surprises. I didn't expect people to be there, but it made the show more exciting.
Yeah.
And the studio wrestling feel, it felt more intimate, so it kind of like felt personal in a good way. And I think some of the talent they have now will help build the foundation for the NWA.
Are we allowed to talk about who showed up, or should we? Like some of the surprises, or should we?
Well, I know we can give away one surprise. I know we
Okay.
can give away one because he already posted it to Facebook, Instagram, so you can't hide it. But former WWE Tag Team Champion Trevor Murdoch was in the house.
One of my favorites.
He is one of your favorites.
Yes.
I enjoyed seeing him, and it's, again, this is kind of where history is kind of so cool, right? Because when Marquez first started doing championship wrestling from Hollywood, which at the time was totally backed by the National Wrestling Alliance, it was considered the NWA show. He brought in all the champions. So Dave brought in the tag team champions, the Skull Crushers. You guys might not know him, but Rashi Brown was.
Yeah, I remember him. Yep.
Oh, he's still. I wish he was still wrestling, but Rashi Brown, Keith Walker. I'm glad I pulled his name because I couldn't get there at first. We also had the North American champion who was Apollo. He used to wrestle on TNA. If you guys see him, you might recognize him. El Leon, the Apollo. Okay. He's a Puerto Rican wrestler. Great size, great look. Then one of the guys who was very interesting that was there was, you guys, NXT fans might know him. He was also in Impact for a while. We called him Phil Shatter. In Impact, he was Gunner.
Yeah.
I don't know his name. I think it's like Jackson Ricks or something like that in NXT. But all the champions were there, including the world champion, Blue Demon Jr. They didn't have the junior heavyweight champion because at that point the belt was kind of, there was a champion, but it was kind of stagnant. Same thing with the women's championship. That wasn't really defended out here. But you had the major men's titles, I guess. And so what I felt that show was building to way back when was Lance and Cade, who teamed in the WWE as tag team champions. I think they were building to a showdown between Cade and Murdoch and the Skull Crushers. So I've been familiar with Murdoch for a while, and he also used to tour on some of the shows that Dave Marquez was promoting in Canada and Las Vegas, and he was a part of those shows too. In fact, oddly enough, he was part of the shows that Dave was doing back in Missouri with Harley Race. So his history with Marquez and the NWA is pretty thick, and then to see him last night, and his post was even like, the NWA is my past, the NWA is my present, and the NWA is my future. That's pretty cool to me to see a talent that's engaged in that. He kind of took a hiatus from wrestling. He wasn't really wrestling like a year ago, 2 years ago. So to see him on TV, well, in the studio, I should say, I thought that was pretty cool.
Right.
And it looks like he's going to be maybe a gatekeeper, where he's going to give the young guys a test and try to build them up all the while trying to build himself up. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Love the guy. He just has this hard-hitting sort of Harley Race, Dick Murdoch kind of style.
Old school.
Obviously old school.
Yeah.
Man, just love that stuff.
Excuse me. You guys keep talking.
Another guy that I was pretty impressed by was Eli Drake. Of course, I've seen him before on in different promotions, but I've never seen him live, and he carries it, man. I feel like in the NWA right now, he's sort of got this puppet master thing going on. He's sort of orchestrating, and you can see it. It's pretty great.
Yeah, he has great promos. Like, as soon as he comes out, he gives this outstanding promo, and he nails it every single time.
Every time.
He doesn't mess up. He doesn't. And next world champ.
And in the ring?
Oh, he's one of the best.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
Solid.
So I'm a big Nick Aldous fan. He's my champ. So Nick, I think you need to watch out for this guy. Eli Drake is after you.
I think it's gonna come down to Nick Aldous and Eli Drake one day. Yeah. So I can't think of nobody else that can deliver like Eli Drake.
Yeah. So what do you think about? Well, I don't want to get too specific about
Well,
matches.
can I give my take on Eli Drake real quick?
Sure.
Please.
Sorry for the interruption. So Eli Drake, the guy's just exudes charisma, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing about him is like you buy into him immediately because he, like you guys said, he has a look. He can cut a promo.
Yep.
He's more than competent in the ring. I think the best call of the night was when Aldous said that he's a wannabe Nick Aldous.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say it, but I kind of feel like that's more accurate than it should be because he's like the American version of Nick Aldous with fancier shoes and not wearing a nice suit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was dead on, and I honestly believe, I love Nick Aldous. I know you love Nick Aldous. Mm-hmm. I've traveled with a guy. He's a great dude. You can tell he loves his family. You can tell he cuts a great promo. His passion last night, unrivaled. But I think there might be a little bit of, when you talk about superhero movies and the genre of superhero movies, they talk about there's kind of like a superhero fatigue. Now the movies still do good box office, and we still see some movies are going to do great, some movies not so much.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe there's kind of a Nick Aldis fatigue. I don't feel enough people are excited about him, and maybe it's time to kind of give us a break, let him focus on something else for a while.
Yeah.
I always thought that the most compelling storylines is the guy chasing the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
When Tim Storm was world champion, Tim Storm was a very interesting guy. I mean, that's what made 10 Pounds of Gold work. But the compelling storyline was Nick Aldis chasing Tim.
Right.
And then the compelling storyline from last year was Cody chasing Nick.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I mean, we're not going to give away spoilers, but there is nobody really chasing the world champion. You got a lot of guys who want a shot, but I don't think anyone's been head and shoulders above anybody else.
No. There's nobody really gunning for Nick Aldis.
Yeah.
And I don't want the fans to get stale of Nick Aldis.
Right.
So I think maybe there should be a time where Eli Drake needs to get that title shot and maybe refreshing things a little bit.
He would definitely do
Yeah.
that. Okay, so I have a question. There was one moment in the night that I just got chills every time. And that's every time they started chanting NWA. I mean, I got choked up. I teared up. We're all chanting NWA. And it just, man, it blew me over. And I know that at one point, Nick Aldis was the very first promo he was doing. You looked over at me and said, "Man, this is giving me chills."
Yeah, I got
goosebumps.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm chanting something that my dad was chanting, and people before me.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Jay, did you have a moment like that?
See, and yes, I did. The problem for me is that this isn't my first rodeo at the NWA, the studio shows. So we were doing that 10 years ago in Hollywood. Yeah. And in fact, I actually had taped that at a live taping, and I put that as the intro to my NWA podcast back in the day. So you had the music playing, and then NWA, and then it would cut into me, and it was pretty cool. Yeah. Hearing it so organic from a different crowd. You got to remember, I was probably the only sane person in the crowd. Me and Marquez, that was it. Everyone else, this was the first time they'd been to this kind of environment. So I thought that was pretty awesome. And the fact that it came so quick, so organically. Right. There wasn't someone on the side saying, "Hey guys, it'd be cool if you chanted this for the show."
No. Right. They wanted to chant and they felt it.
Right. And one of the things that was cool is Cornette came out before the show, and I know Cornette's a hot topic. Some people love him, some people hate him. Cornette comes out and says, "Hey, I don't care who you boo for.
Right.
I don't care who you cheer for. Just show that you're here. Be a part of the show." And so for something, they asked for us to participate. They got it. Yeah. And they got it more than I think they could have hoped for. If that soundbite doesn't somehow end up on the show at the beginning or at the end or something, I'm going to have a talk with Lagana, because I think that was probably one of the most organic. And Lagana says it all the time, right? He says this is the era of, what's the word he uses? Authenticity. Yeah. That was authenticity times 100.
Yes.
Because again, that wasn't scripted.
No.
It just came from the heart of the fans.
And at one point, Nick Aldis said, NWA stands for National Wrestling Alliance, but also something authenticity.
Not without authenticity.
Yeah, not without it.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
And that was very cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every chant was authentic. Nobody made us do these chants. And they wanted to do it, so every fan I felt something last night.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think that's important, because when they're trying to, they're telling the world, this is the mission statement, we're going to be different still the same, but different. And what we're going to do, others are going to emulate because we're going to do it so well. And the studio TV last night, I felt they nailed the presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you like certain wrestlers or not, it's honestly, it doesn't matter. If you hate guys, great, hate them. If you love guys, love them. Even Cornette said, if you think this sucks, tell us this sucks. And I think we can honestly say there was a few matches last night that were misses. They didn't do it.
Yeah.
There were some matches that were terrific. And I believe the evolution of the storyline is really going to make some people happy. And I think some people are going to be upset with it. But they're giving you something authentic, something that is very organic. And what I really love is that they're sticking with the people that kind of brought them to the show. Again, a lot of the storyline was committed to Tim Storm. A lot of the storyline was committed to Colt Cabana, Nick Aldous, James Storm, the Wild Side, which is what they're calling Latimer and Royce Isaacs, Camille. She was featured heavily. Allison Kay, they talked about her. The people that brought them to this point were rewarded by having the show be about them. None of the stars that they brought in outshined who was already on the roster.
Wow, that's so true. And they could easily have outshined, but you're right, they didn't.
Yeah, they could have brought anybody they wanted to, but to keep that homegrown talent and give them those opportunities, it's pretty good.
Now, one thing that Larry pointed out to me, and I kind of feel it too, is that at some parts of the show, it felt like Impact Light. And I think that's going to happen because of where Billy and Dave Lagana came from. He even mentioned last night, 3 years ago, they were in a lawsuit with Dixie Carter and Impact Wrestling to try to take ownership of it. It didn't pan out in Billy's favor for Impact. Well, maybe in some ways it did because he got a cash payout. Now he owns the NWA and he's doing his own thing. And who knows, maybe 5 years from now, the NWA is going to be a bigger deal than Impact ever was. But there was a lot of Impact champions in that ring. So we're talking, I don't want to give away too much, but we saw James Storm as a former Impact champion.
Yeah.
We had Nick Aldous, who's a former Impact champion, and Eli Drake, who's a former Impact champion, all in our show, all there in the arena. So how do you guys feel about that, and what do you think that hurts what they're doing?
No, I don't think it hurts because, you can't help where some talent comes from.
Right.
So if you get, this person or that person, you put them all in the ring, it might look like a certain company, but I mean, you just can't help where talent comes from. Great talent, but to say, well, there's 4 people in the ring and this is a Impact, match or a Ring of Honor match, whatever the case is, I don't think people should say that.
Yeah, and I think, so much of the industry is built upon what's been done previously.
Right.
I mean, we look way back. I mean, we look back to, in the 60s, Dory Funk Jr. and in the 50s, and everything builds and builds on everything else. So I don't think it's going to be an issue at all.
And I think, to kind of what you were echoing, or let me echo what you were saying, Hogan's run in WWF was built on what he was doing in AWA.
Right.
Flair's run in the WWF was built on what he did in the NWA. Hogan's run in the WCW was built on what he did in the WWF. So I don't think there's a problem with using these guys who have proven themselves, proven commodities. I mean, that's the way you need to look at it, proven commodities. But it's pretty cool to see that continuation. Some of these guys who were world champions there are still being looked at as world championship material here. They said it lots of times last night. Nick Aldis is the best world's heavyweight champion in the business today. Stan, I know you're a New Japan guy. Answer me that. Talk to me about that.
I mean, this is why I feel that we need one world champion, because I can say right now, Kazuchika Okada is the IWGP champion, and I might feel, he's the best wrestler in the world, or Kento Miyahara from All Japan Pro Wrestling. So to say Nick Aldis is the best in the world, I mean, I have different opinions about it. So that's why I think one day we should have go back to one world champion if possible, but nowadays probably not. But there's so many great wrestlers, but to say one is the best ever, that's kind of hard for me to say.
Nick Aldous is the best. Well, I'm a big Nick fan.
Right.
But I have to agree, like, there are so many just great champions out there.
Yeah.
New Japan, All Japan, of course, WWE, and everywhere else. We got a lot of great champions out there.
One of the things that Mr. Billy Corgan talked about at the press conference is that the NWA still open for business. That was their mission statement on, I think it was October 2nd, 2017. Hey, we'll do business with anybody. The only caveat now is he will not work with Impact for obvious reasons.
Right.
But he specifically mentioned New Japan by name, WWE by name, AAA by name, Ring of Honor. And, I know that it's up to sorry guys, people want to send me messages. I know that it's up to the NWA to prove its worth. And that's something else that Billy talked about too, is like, this show isn't behind any kind of pay window. Right. This show will be free on Facebook Live, on YouTube. It's going to be a thing, and they're okay with operating at a loss for right now, which I think that says something what they're committed to, because they're going to build it brick by brick, like Dave Lagana says. And I don't mean to throw out all the cliches that Lagana and Billy use, but they're year 2 of a 20-year plan.
Right.
There's no pay window, so everyone can watch it. You have a Facebook account? Cool. You can get on the NWA and watch the show. And I think that's really important, because they kind of set that up in the early days with 10 pounds of gold. Mm-hmm. 10 pounds of gold was free access to everybody. You didn't have to pay for it, which is good, because I think if you had to pay for it, maybe, I don't know if I'd want to pay for that.
All right.
I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong, but am I committed to it?
Yeah,
I don't even know.
At that point, we were unfamiliar with it. Like,
right.
We didn't know what it was.
So now they're doing the shows in the studio, big time look and feel, big time talent, and they're still not putting up a pay window. Now there are pay-per-views. They did announce a pay-per-view December 14th, but everything else is still coming out for free. And, you can cultivate that audience by, again, making it accessible to everybody. So if I'm little Johnny in Clarksville, Tennessee, I can watch the show. If I'm Juan in Mexico, I can watch the show. Right. If I'm Yoshihara in Tokyo, I can watch the show.
It's better that way.
I think it's good for the long-term build. Now he said, like, hey, at some point we are going to have to ask for money. We are going to have to try to get this show on a better format. But again, Facebook, YouTube, Fight TV, I mean, they're really making it as accessible as they can for everybody.
I think it's better than actually going for like a TV network, because a different company, like right now they're having issues with like Canada, United Kingdom. When we going to see your show? But NWA, hey, just go to YouTube.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people sort of complaining on Twitter about, well, it's not going to be on a real TV station or a real channel. And that's just not an issue. At this point, people are dropping cable in droves. They're picking up Netflix and indie wrestling channels, subscription services, YouTube. YouTube actually is coming upon where it's going to be the highest music streaming service.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's not a better place for it right now to be.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. So cable TV is becoming a thing of the past. Yeah. That's the thing about wrestling, and I'm going to borrow Andy's point. And I met Andy yesterday at the press conference. He said, wrestling has always driven technology. And I'm like,
whoa.
No. And then I started thinking about, it has. So you got to remember, in the 1940s, there wasn't a TV in every house, right? There were radios, but then with the advent of studio wrestling, guess what?
Everybody had to see Gorgeous George.
Everyone had to see Gorgeous George. Everyone wanted to see Lou Thez.
Yes.
Everyone wanted to see John Tolos. Everyone wanted to see Freddie Blassie. So these TVs were selling left and right. The mom and pop shops of then, there wasn't really a lot of Sears and Best Buys or anything like that. It was, Frank's TVs down on the corner. They were advertising on these wrestling shows because, hey, come watch wrestling in color,
Yeah.
You got to get a color TV so you could see Blassie bleeding like a pig, right? That's how they drove technology then. in the modern era, right? One of the first big companies that I knew that was on the internet, WCW, Time Warner, AOL.
Yeah.
They were doing those AOL chats. I don't know if you guys remember WWF at the time. They were doing their live wire shows. They had people literally calling in, and they were doing chats on the AOL Grandstand forums. And I mean, it kind of drove social media. Like, everyone thinks about social media and like, oh, it's for music. Oh, it's for artists. Yeah, I think I've been using MySpace, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all this stuff I've been using for pro wrestling, and I know I'm not the only one.
Right.
Social media and wrestling, actually, social media kind of changed wrestling, but wrestling kind of changed social media too. You know, there was an art like 20 years ago called tape trading.
Yeah.
Where you would get the best matches on your TV,
Yep.
and then you'd send it to somebody else, and they'd send. I remember once I won a contest on SoCal Uncensored, and they said, "Hey, we have a best of Spanky collection, Spanky Brian Kendrick." Well, they had all the matches from his time at Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy that only aired in San Antonio. And then like his matches in Memphis when he was with MCW, which was also WWE Development. So I got like this gem of a tape. I was like, wow, I was so excited to watch it, and it was great. I remember High Spots you could buy matches a la carte, and they'd put it all on one VHS tape for you.
Wow.
So I bought like all of Samoa Joe's matches in 01 because I was a huge Samoa Joe fan. So I got to see him wrestle like Taka Michinoku, and I got to see him wrestle Hashimoto and Otani, and it was just like, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't even need to do that anymore because you can just go to YouTube, or you can go to, I think it's Vimeo.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? Heck, some people are even uploading matches on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Twitch. So you really can see these things everywhere. Yeah. It's not specific to any kind of like service now. You can actually just get it for free.
And you're not limited to a time. Like, you don't have to say, I have to be home at Monday night at 7 p.m.
You can watch it anytime you want.
You know, you can watch most of it anytime. Yeah.
You don't need a DVR box or all this other stuff. Just go on YouTube and watch the show.
It's much more convenient.
Yeah.
So, again, wrestling drives technology, and again, we're seeing new uses for technology. The NWA is taking advantage of that. Again, Facebook Live, YouTube, Fight TV. You guys can check it out. I love the idea that they're going 6:05 start on East Coast time.
Yeah.
I mean, 3:05 for me. I'll never be able to watch it live. I'll be at work, but that doesn't mean I won't throw it up on the website as soon as I can. It doesn't mean I won't watch it on my own time.
All right.
But I think that's really cool. Who was your MVP last night?
I've got mine. I mean,
yeah.
I kind of think it has to be Eli Drake.
Yeah.
I love you, champ. I love Nick Aldous. But, man, Eli just...
It's the promo.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great.
He
on
nails the
camera.
promo. Nick Aldis nails his promos also.
Yep.
But something with Eli Drake, like something that he didn't do in Impact. You know, if it was like this is a new Eli Drake.
Yeah.
And those promos are spot on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he reminds me, and I told him this after the event, he just reminds me so much of Tully Blanchard when he's talking and his mannerisms. Just so much like Tully. It's eerie to me.
And I think just because you hit on Tully, man, that guy should have been an NWA World Champion. There were so many times that, you know, I know Flair was the safe bet. Flair was the draw. But gosh, they could have put that belt on Tully so many times. And there was actually an anniversary show probably about 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And let's say 15 years ago, make it safe. And Jeff Jarrett defended the title against Tully Blanchard. And even at his advanced age, and he wasn't old, but he wasn't a regular wrestler anymore. He still looked good. I mean, he still was built, but with the gray hair. And I honestly, I guess I get worked up on these things. I guess I'm kind of a mark. I'm like, Tully's going to win the title. Tully's going to be, they're finally going to correct that mistake from the Chick Crockett era. He didn't, obviously, but I think he could have. And to your point, you bring up he's a Tully, and I'm thinking, well, gosh, if he's a Tully and Aldous is a Flair, and I don't know, could Vladimir and Royce, could they be like a Gene and Arn, or excuse me, an Ole and Arn, right?
That's interesting.
And could we have a Four Horsemen? I mean, could we? I don't know what the answer is to that, and I mean, obviously, when you guys watch the matches coming up here in the next few weeks, it's not clear that this is happening I'm just speculating. There's no forecasting here. There's nothing to make me think that. But do you think a Horseman could exist in the new